Welcome back. This is part 4 of Guitar Tech versus DIY Guitar Kit. We have our neck, frets have been leveled, nut slots have been cut to the appropriate depth, and the back has been sanded, or everything has been sanded, even the fretboard is 3000 grit. We have the body, which was coated a couple of times in Danish oil, then sanded up to 3000 grit, then using micro mesh sanded up to 12,000 grit, and then waxed. So, a nice natural finish guitar body. And then all the parts that came with it. So we have our reloaded pick guard, which has 2 connectors, cable, Allen wrenches, and whammy bar, strings, and all the other accessories, not accessories, but like parts, tuners, trem claw, trem system, all that stuff. The only thing you should need, from what I've seen at least in the kit, is screwdriver. So I will be using, actually I'm not even going to use the Music Nomad screwdriver probably, I'm going to use my electric one, but you want a nice screwdriver set. It's important to use the correct size screwdriver so you don't strip out any screws. On kits like this, it's very often that the screws are not the best quality, so we want to make sure that we have the best chance of letting all the screws survive. So you'll need a screwdriver and you'll need wire cutters to cut the strings once you put them on. Those are the only things you should need to install this kit that the kit does not come with. So first thing I'm going to do is start working on the body. So actually, let's get you a top down right here. Okay, so here we have body. Here's the pick guard. Now the pick guard came installed partially. So you would just have to put a couple of screws in if you really wanted to do this without any finish work. You could skip those first few videos and just put the guitar together, which is honestly pretty cool. So let's go ahead and screw this pick guard in. Okay, so the pick guard is installed. That was pretty easy. If you wanted to take all the plastic off first, no one would blame you for that. But I just did the screwing down first, and all I'm going to do is use this tool, which you don't need this tool. You could totally do this by hand, just using some either strength, or sometimes I'll use like a towel and just kind of slide it under the knobs. I'm just going to peel the plastic off pick guard. Okay, so now all the plastic wrap is off. I'm going to do the output jack, which is just a single plug. You can see here. That plugs into the jack here. Something that I notice about like cheaper jacks is sometimes you have issues with connection just because the prong here is a little bent out. So I'm just going to, before I even install it, just bend it in a little bit. I don't want to put a lot of pressure because it might break. Just enough that makes sure it's going to make good contact with the cable. Okay, so the jack was not fitting properly, so I just rotated the jack a little bit. You want to be careful not to ruin any of the solder connections, and those do not look like they're soldered on very good, to be honest. But I wanted to do that, make sure that there's no issue with it lining up with the holes that are pre-drilled. So that is a lot better where it is now. But if you do need to do that, you're going to want something to tighten it back down. So Music Nomad screwdriver does do that. Made my life a little bit easier. And now I should be able to get it lined up. Okay, output jack and electronics are all taken care of. The next thing I want to do is get the claw installed. So, sorry, not the claw, the trem. So the claw has a wire here, but the trem is a 6.1. We have 6 screws that'll screw it into the body. On this type of guitar, You could try and float the trem, but on lesser expensive ones, typically trems are not going to be the most stable thing for tuning. So just to avoid any headache, what I'm going to do is try to open it. Gosh, it's like crazy. Right. Is I'm going to screw it flat to the body. So trem, go back to the other side. Trem will sit in here and screw into the body. The holes do not look like they're perfectly lined up. So like the hole in front of A, D, and G look okay, but then the rest of them are a little bit off center. So this is another reason why screwing it flat to the body would be better, because when the bridge is floating, it's kind of like up on those screws. And if they're not lined up perfectly, it's not going to be the best for stability. So let's go ahead and install this now. Okay, so the bridge isn't fully seated, but I got the screws in. The screws seem to line up okay, but the pick guard did not. There's a little bit of an edge here on the pick guard that is causing issues. So I'm going to try and see if I can take care of that without taking the pick guard off. All I'm going to do is use a file to kind of file away that edge. It's barely not fitting, so I mean it should take just a couple of seconds. So let me grab a file. Okay, so I'm just going to be using the Nomad E file. I'm going to use the rounded side to go under. I don't want anything sharp hitting the bridge or the body. I just want the side to hit the pick guard. Okay, so it took a little bit of filing, and it's still a pretty snug fit. To be honest, I would check this before putting on the pick guard. I just forgot to. But that should hopefully hold up fine. So the trem, or bridge part of the trem, is installed. Next, we need to install the claw. So STRICH's guitar is very well set up for this, which I like, and that is, again, everything is solderless. So you have kind of like a male connector here and a female connector here that just kind of slot together like so, and no need to solder anything, which is great. Their solder joint on this looks a little bit better than on the output jack, which is good. The output jack they weren't even wrapping the wire inside the lugs. So this one's just 2 screws, and then we got to install the claw springs. So let's go ahead and get that done. Okay, so the screws are in. They're not quite lined up. The left one's a little bit higher than the other. Again, because we're making this flat against the body, stuff like that's not going to matter. But if you wanted to use it as a regular trem, that might make things more difficult. But honestly, if you want a regular trem, I'd recommend upgrading. Another thing is, usually you would solder the ground to this little tab in the center of the claw, but they did it to one of the feet that the springs are supposed to hook onto. And so that kind of, I usually do straight spring pull. So now I'm going to have to do like an arrow shape where 2 are pulling off center. Not a huge deal, again, because we're not using the trem, but STRICH. That's not where you solder a ground wire. Solder it to here. Okay, now that the claw is all, that's not right. Get this one in the right spot, actually. Okay, now that the claw is in the right spot, I'm just going to tighten this down until I can't turn the screws anymore, because again, we're not going to be using the trem itself. So a hardtail kind of situation is what we're going for. claw is installed. So the bridge is all set. All the electronics here are set. I don't usually like to use these kind of back plates. They give you one of the ones with 6 individual holes. And if I put it on, sometimes the holes just don't line up with the bridge. So if you look here, the bridge is a little bit further down. So realistically, it should be about there to line up with the strings. It's going to make it kind of a pain in the butt to take strings off. So I'm not going to install that just yet. Let's go ahead and get the strap pins on. That's everything the body needs. So now it's time to install the neck. I'm just going to face the neck down. I'm going to line the heel of the body up. That seems pretty good. Now, I mentioned this in one of the earlier videos. It comes with a back plate and a bushing for the back plate. I'm just going to use the back plate. If this is real mahogany, that should be no issue whatsoever. Neck is installed in the body. A nice STRICH logo with what looks like to be a flame on the neck plate. You can always flip it around to the other side, by the way, if you don't want their logo. And time to do the head. Okay, tuners are installed. I ended up grabbing my other screwdriver set just because I wanted a double 0 instead of a single 0 Phillips head screwdriver. All the tuners look okay, except G seems to be crooked and high E seems to be crooked. So I'll go ahead and show you with them all lined up here. They're not lined up very well. If we look at the back, I'll be able to see too. They're not kind of in a straight line, especially that high E looks crooked. If you can turn them, it'll probably be okay. But if that's something you want to fix, you'd have to fill the hole and then re-drill it out. Super simple. Toothpick goes in the hole with some wood glue on it. Use wire cutters to cut it. Line up the tuner the way you want it and then drill the hole. So STRICH kind of messed up on that. Like I said, there's no holes for the string trees. They did include string trees, which I did not see anywhere on the listing, but there are string trees included, 2 of them. So we might be able to get away with that. The next step would be installing the strings, and then figuring out where the string tree needs to go. But I'm going to fix that head before we move forward. I want to make sure that the tuners are aligned properly, just for peace of mind. Okay, so I'm just checking to make sure that they can all line up properly. You want to use something flat and straight. So I just had this laying in front of me because it's from the kit. So I can put that against the edges of all these and see that they're all touching. If I had one that was crooked or anything, it would not touch that one. So I lined them all up by eye and then figured that out. And it looks like really the only one that's significantly off is G. High E maybe a little bit. So I'm going to screw the rest of them back down. Let's go ahead and look at it lined up closer. You can see that the holes do line up on G and high E, but not perfectly. I don't know if you can tell perfectly or not. So what I'm going to do is just try to angle the screws so that the key is in the right spot. The biggest issue you would have if the keys are not aligned is they might hit each other or make it harder for you to twist them when you're tuning the guitar. But if other than that, it shouldn't cause like tuning issues. So I'm just going to come in an angle. So not perfect, but a lot better than it was. So I'm going to come in an angle on G as well. So now that they're all installed in it, with those two being in an angle, I'm kind of missing it touching on D just a little bit. Everything else is better. If you look, that lines up much more nicely. So now we shouldn't have any issues turning them. So next step would be installing strings. You can use the included strings, but I have a pack of Ernie Ball 10 to 46 laying around, so that's what I'm going to use. You can use their included string winder to make your life a little bit easier than doing it by hand. I'm going to use my electric screwdriver with a string winder attachment. Okay, so strings are installed. Guitar's not making a lot of good noises, so the action is probably a little too low. I'm going to be going ahead and raising that up. Just going to be using this screwdriver. I'm not even going to figure out exactly where I want it just yet. I just want it to make noise that isn't dead frets. All right, so there's a little bit of tension on the strings, and it's set up at a height that now they make noise that aren't just dead frets. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm just going to tune up the guitar real quick. Strings are tuned up. Now, I said if you want to install a string tree, it's better to have the strings on first. That's because we want to see where the strings are going to line up, and then we have to create that pull. So ideally, you would drill out a hole to put the screw into. If you don't have a drill, you're kind of out of luck on this case. So what I like to do is I like to take a screwdriver head, like a Phillips head. I like to find where I'd like to put the string tree. So I'm actually just going to look at my strat real quick, and I see that the B and high E1 is about halfway between the A and D string. So it'd be about here. And I'm going to just take that and I'm going to push down into the wood, make a little dent. That's what I would do normally for that. And then I'm going to put the second string tree on as well, which is usually a little bit closer to the base of the A string. And again, this one would be for the D and G string. So I line up where the D and G string is. I'm going to put a little mark in the center of those. I'm going to go grab a drill. We're going to make this happen. Okay, so for this, I just have, sorry about that noise. I just have a drill here. I'm going to use a small, like 1/16 bit, I believe would be a good size for this. Yeah, we'll go with that. And this will take, if you have a drill, no time at all. Again, STRICH, if you can make this happen without changing anything else about the kit, that's great. If you need to save the labor cost somehow, don't install the electronics in the pick guard. That should save you a few minutes. And then you could get somebody to drill these holes. So we want to make sure that we keep the drill perpendicular, and we don't want to go very far. I got those two holes now, so I should be able to use my screwdriver along with the parts for the string tree. Okay, so the guitar is all strung up. It's not going to be in tune right now, but you would tune it up and set it up, which will be in the next video. Whole build process took about an hour. It would be a little bit less if I didn't have to drill those out, and it would be a little bit better. Again, just let me remind STRICH, you don't want to solder to the little hook there. You want to solder to the hook in the middle of the claw. Okay, if you guys were able to make that happen, this guitar would have been probably a 30-minute, with everything. Getting it set up might take about a half hour, but all in all, an hour is not bad to build a guitar. So I'm going to go ahead and cut these strings. I'll see you guys in the next video when we're setting the guitar up.